All right, the 1838 account is probably the account that you know best. The reason why is because this account is what is published in the official history of the church. It's in church newspapers. And then it gets picked up by Franklin D. Richards when he's a mission president over in England and put into this little pamphlet called The Pearl of Great Price. The Pearl of Great Price will soon become very popular over here in America as well with the church. And in 1880, it will be canonized, which is a big deal because that gives the average member of the church access to a printed version of the first vision for the first time. Then it starts to become cited and quoted and more well-known as a whole. Because of that, the 1838 account, it being in the Pearl of Great Price, it's the one that we know the best. Well, what's unique about it? Well, first of all, remember, this is the official history of the church. It gives us the most details about the rise of the church and in the context of a church. It gives us the most details about what happened before the vision and what happened after the vision. As I already mentioned, it probably has the most persecution details as well, because in 1838, the church is suffering from a lot of persecution. We get details like Joseph attending before all the meetings and the conflict that was going on in his mind. We get some wonderful details after, like that Joseph was lying on his back and that he had no strength. The discussion with his mother, that Presbyterianism is not true. The condemnation from one of the local Methodist preachers who tells him with great contempt that it's all of the devil. You get these wonderful, wonderful details in the 1838 account. The 1842 account was written by Joseph Smith to a newspaper man when we got to Illinois. So when the church starts to set up in Nauvoo, there's a newspaper man who writes a newspaper up in Chicago called the Chicago Democrat. His name's John Wentworth, and he wants to know just who are these Mormons that have come into Illinois. So Joseph writes him a letter giving a sketch of the rise of the church, and in it he includes a first vision account. The thing that's interesting about the context of the 42 account is it's actually written to a non-Latter-day Saint audience. So therefore it's a little bit more generic and follows some basic things that the 32, 35, and 38 account touch on as a whole. There's also 5 secondary accounts. By secondary accounts, these are people who heard Joseph Smith relate the vision and wrote it down. The 5 people who produced these are Orson Pratt, Orson Hyde, Levi Richards, David Nye White, and Alexander Nybar. And all of them have some wonderful details in them. Orson Pratt's account will actually be the earliest published account of the first vision. He gives some great details. It's obvious he's heard Joseph talk about it. To what extent Joseph reviews Pratt's account, it's unknown. But one of the things that Pratt talks about that I love is this idea of fire. Pratt says that Joseph thought that the entire grove was going to be consumed in flames and that this fire or light envelops him and wraps around him. Some beautiful details there. Orson Hyde publishes his in German and translated into English. He gives some details about the adversarial attack. Not only did Joseph's mouth swell up and he hear a noise, but also Hyde says that the adversary tried to put improper ideas into Joseph's mind to thwart him from obtaining his objective. I love this detail from Levi Richards that I'll talk about in an upcoming video about the doctrinal first vision. Levi Richards says that Joseph was told by God that the everlasting covenant had been broken, an important theological idea. David Nye White gives us this wonderful express permission, like, what church should I join specifically? Alexander Nybar puts it in revivalist language, or maybe Joseph tells it in revivalist language. He wanted to get religion. He wanted to feel and shout like the rest, but he could feel nothing. You can almost see the revivalist. And it's interesting, Joseph's like, all these other people are having these spiritual experiences. Why am I not? And really interesting insight. He also gives some details about what the Savior looked like. And he talks about the fire resting on him as well. So some wonderful details. Now, I would encourage you, go to the Joseph Smith Papers website. If you're like, where did Anthony Sweat find these sources? They are so available, perhaps more so than ever in the history of the church. Again, so grateful for the church history department, scholars at the Joseph Smith Papers. If you just go to the Joseph Smith Papers website, right on the front page, you'll see primary accounts of the first vision, a link. Click on it, and you can read these 9 original sources of where we get our understanding of the first vision. Just wonderful, wonderful things to read. I'd highly recommend you do that as you supplement your reading from the 1838 Pearl of Great Price account as well.